Inflation in the U.S. has hit a new high of 9.1% in June, putting even more pressure on American families and President Joe Biden, whose approval ratings have dropped because prices keep going up. The government released data this week that showed the Consumer Price Index went up sharply and more quickly than expected from May to July. This was because gasoline prices went up much more than expected. The Labor Department said that the 9.1% rise in the CPI over the past year up to June was the fastest rise since November 1981. Hello and welcome to Wealthy Value. In today's video, Chief Market Strategist at InTheMoneyStocks.com Gareth Soloway updates about his Bitcoin outlook for 2022, his thoughts on 9.1% CPI report for June 2022, and his views regarding Fed's next move after this rate hike. Gareth also explains whether $21,000 is the bottom for Bitcoin, or will this cryptocurrency go even lower. Make sure to stick around till the end of this video where Gareth Soloway reveals why this cycle is the worst cycle ever in Bitcoin history. If you like the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the post notifications. Let's dive right into the video.
So number one, we've been down into this 2017 high, right? I mean, we've been below it a little bit. We've been above it a little bit. As of yesterday, we were below. Now we're back above today. And here's that line right there. But I think people were not, most crypto investors, all they do is focus on crypto. And again, I think that's what my stock background has been very good for kind of seeing the bigger macro picture. And you have to understand that if the dollar wasn't surging, I think crypto would be much, much higher than it is right now. And if the dollar is topping, and you can already see the reversal in crypto as the dollar's fallen today, I think crypto has upside. I'm still in the case here where my midterm outlook is still down, but my near-term outlook is to the upside. I think we take out the short-term highs of 22, and I think you're probably headed back to at least 25.5 here. That's assuming the dollar really has topped and starts to come in over the next couple of weeks. No, I think the markets already kind of have the game plan here. And I think that's the amazing thing that most investors have to understand is that, by the time that CPI came out this morning, the markets, the algorithms reacted and the small investors reacted. But smart money was just buying hand over fist because they were already saying, okay, that number's over. Now we're looking to next month, right? And I think the same thing with the Federal Reserve is the markets are already seeing the odds, right? So high percentage of 75, lower percentage of 100. The markets are already saying, okay, well, if they do 100, maybe that's good news because they're going to then go on hold maybe all the way till after the midterms. And then who knows, maybe the economy, maybe inflation is so much lower, then they don't feel like they have to continue to raise so aggressively. It's tough to know. It's looking at the commodity prices and trying to gauge when they started to fall and then how long does it take to pass through to the consumer. So I guess I would say I'm not super surprised. But I do think that this is the top on CPI readings. And I do think that by next month, you're going to have this full month plus of oil falling, copper falling. I mean, all these other commodities just collapsing pretty dramatically. And that probably starts to show at least next month a slight downtick. I mean, that was my whole reasoning behind when people were saying, $150, $200 oil. I was like, what planet are you guys living on? I'm looking at people changing their driving habits dramatically. And then you throw into the mix the Fed hikes, which is going to slow the economy. And I'm trying to figure out where are these people? And we're talking about analysts. I mean, Goldman Sachs. I mean, these players that should have immense knowledge, they're calling for these ridiculous price targets on oil. And I just did not see it. I think also to keep in mind, I think you can see the stock market reacting today. Like there were a lot of individual investors, and I saw it on my Twitter feed today, that when that print came out, they were kind of, oh my goodness, the end of the world. And you saw the markets initially get crushed. We saw a big gap down, but the market started to recognize exactly what we've just said, which is this is peak inflation. All right. This is as high as it's going to get, at least in the near term. Now, it doesn't mean, and I think you would agree, we're not going back to 2%. I mean, that's not happening for a long, long time, if ever. But it's the market wants that little bit of hope. And just to see that number down ticking, which if you look at any commodities out there, you should see that next month. In the camp that it's going to be kind of that 4 to 5% range it's going to come into. And then unfortunately, the metrics that the Fed is taking to control it will then probably cause a slowdown that might start to get out of control a little bit by the Fed. And then the question is, at a 4 to 5% handle on inflation, does the Fed start to say, okay, we need to start to loosen policy because unemployment is now 7 or 8 or 10%. And I think that's what investors have to watch. Not so much this year. I would expect that more to be an issue next year. I do think that at this stage, the midterms now is kind of a hopeless battle. And they're probably looking forward and saying, okay, well, we now have, 2 more years to go before the next election for the president. How do we get things in line? So we start, and again, they're going to have to get things in line well before that election, and probably a year before things will have to be really on point, and then they can go there. By the way, one other thing I wanted to mention is people aren't talking about it, but really watch the PPI number tomorrow. And the reason I mentioned the PPI number is because it's producer. So the way inflation works is the triggers first occur on the producer side. The producer then passes it to the consumer. So it could be possible that we could see a slight downtick in the PPI tomorrow, which would then filter through to the consumer next month. And it's just something interesting. I don't know if that will happen, but it is a possibility. And again, that's just something no one's talking about tomorrow in terms of that PPI number actually being pretty big, because it is a kind of a forecaster for the CPI. It's definitely a possibility. I would still handicap it as the least likely scenario for me. Just like always, I'm always fully aware that anything can happen, right? I mean, we could go lower, we could go straight up, but ultimately, there's still too much junk in the system. And we've seen bankruptcies, we've seen Terra Luna kind of collapse and all these other things. But I don't think, for me, I still look at how many cryptocurrencies are out there. That's still problematic to me. Like, how the heck can there still be over 10,000 or 15 or 20,000 cryptocurrencies? Where does the washout finally occur? And so it would be hard for me to imagine that we're really done here, especially because of this, right? So think about this. Previous cycles have always had the Fed helping by printing. This is the first cycle we don't. So the logic would dictate this would be the worst of all the cycles versus the best of all of them. Now, granted, you do have more adoption, so I think you have to factor that in. Maybe if regulation came out, I think that could be a possible major positive as well. But I'm still in the camp. I got to think that we're headed lower after we get some sort of uptick here. What do you think about the chance? So let's say that price gets driven down to 12,000 or 10,000 on Bitcoin, which I don't know where Michael Saylor's margin calls come in. I know he has leveraged out a little bit, but that would be the other thing that would be really scary. Like if we started to break, let's say the 17.5 low, where is his point where MicroStrategy has some issues there? I don't know. I don't remember. Initially, I heard it was around 21,000, and then I think he kind of updated it and said it was lower than that. But that would just be something else to kind of keep in mind, is that when you have an illiquid asset like Bitcoin, if any of these, did you hear about Mt. Gox, right? So apparently they have 150,000 Bitcoin that might get unloaded. Now, market doesn't care about that right now. But if we were to get another leg down, do these margin calls, bankruptcies, all these factors start to kind of trickle through? So I could almost be on your page where maybe this is a bottom if we don't go at all any lower. That would trigger more bankruptcies, which would be more liquidations and those. But if we do take out 17.5, that's where I would get real nervous, minimum going down to 12,000, maybe even sub 10.
By the way, would you like to pay zero taxes on your crypto gains? You can do this by investing in crypto with your IRA. Here's how to do it in 3 simple steps. Step 1. Open a crypto IRA account with our friends at iTrustCapital, the world's largest crypto IRA platform with over $5 billion in transactions, over 2,000 5-star reviews on Trustpilot, and no monthly fees. Step 2. Transfer your existing IRA, roll over your employer plan, or make a cash contribution through ACH transfer, bank wire, or check. Step 3. Start investing. Available assets include not just Bitcoin and Ethereum, but also Cardano, Chainlink, Polkadot, and all major cryptocurrencies, as well as physical gold and silver. No taxable events mean no complex tracking needed, and security is the best in the industry. All digital assets are held in offline cold storage with the leading institutional custodians Curve and Coinbase Custody, which are both insured and backed by the largest venture capital firms in crypto. Use our link in the description below and get $100 in Bitcoin after signing up. So what are your thoughts about Gareth's perspective on Bitcoin's next price move? Tell us in the comments. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you soon with the next video. Thank you so much for watching.